Welcome back to our channel. It has been a while since we posted a video, so I'm really sorry if you have been looking out for us. We have been up to a lot, some different things going on. So this video today will be about the trip that I took to Alaska with my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt several weeks ago. When I came back from Alaska, I got sick with COVID a few days later, and that took me out of commission for a couple of weeks. Not that I was sick that whole time, but the fatigue, it was a lot to get past. So I'm finally feeling back to normal. After I was starting to feel better, Matthew got COVID, so he was down and out of commission for a couple of weeks. So we're just now, both of us, getting to be where we're feeling healthy and like we have energy again. So we are ramping back some projects at our project houses, but I want to tell you about our Alaskan cruise. So my group, it was a girls trip. Again, my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt, we had a great time in Alaska. So I really want to focus this video today on our Alaskan experience. We were on the Princess Discovery Inside Passage cruise. So that cruise begins in Seattle. It is a 7-day round trip cruise up the Inside Passage and then back down, stopping at several stops along the way. So we stopped in Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, and Victoria, Canada. So those were the 4 stops along the way. And then there were also some scenic cruising by Dawes Glacier within the Endicott Arm, which I will tell you more in depth about all of those stops. And then at the end, I really want to tell you a little bit more about, one, my thoughts on the cruise experience, because I had never been on a cruise before, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about thoughts, maybe some tips and tricks that we learned along the way, and some recommendations that I would have, like where to spend your money, where not to spend your money, or how to spend it better. I also wanted to show some of our accommodations. One thing I wasn't able to find prior to going on the boat, there's a couch that converts to a bed, and then there is this bed that kind of pops down from the ceiling. So I wasn't able to find pictures online. Maybe you're better at searching for those things. I couldn't find it. So I really wanted to show what the room setup looked like with those beds converted into a bed and tell you kind of how that works. So that will be more at the end of the video. So first I want to just jump in and tell you about our experience on the Alaskan cruise. So as I mentioned, the cruise kicks off from Seattle. It's a week long, so it starts on Sunday is the day that you board the cruise. Our group flew to Seattle several days before because we had never been to Seattle and we wanted to explore that really cool city before boarding the ship. And I highly recommend that you take a couple of days either before or after to explore Seattle if you've never been. So this video, I won't really focus on Seattle. It's more about the Alaskan cruise, but we were able to see and do a lot in the 2 days that we were in Seattle before boarding the ship. And I highly recommend it. It was a really cool city. Someone's panicking at the top of the wheel. We're on the very, very top. I highly recommend a visit to Seattle, or if you're on your way to Alaska, definitely take a few days and enjoy Seattle as well. So starting out, again, I had never been on a cruise before, so I wasn't really sure exactly what to expect with the whole boarding experience. Our experience getting on the cruise ship went very quickly. One of the things you want to do, which if you're a cruiser, you know this, we didn't, they give you your luggage tags to print out and you put them on your suitcase. So you basically, like when you get out of your taxi, there's someone there with a giant cart who works for Princess. If you have those luggage tags on your suitcase, your backpack, like you can do, any size, they'll take it and you're basically checking that with them and they will take it to your room. Because once you board the ship, your room may not be ready. Most likely it will not be ready. So there's this kind of like waiting period between when you board and when you can get into your room, and you definitely don't want to be dragging all of your luggage around. So highly recommend printing several of those luggage tags and sending that with the folks who were at the drop-off point.
Ski scooting.
Once we boarded the ship, it was maybe an hour or so before we were able to get into our room, so not very long. The first day getting on the cruise was really just to board. We got ourselves kind of settled in the room, unpacked so that we didn't have suitcases all over the place. Again, it was a little cramped with 4 people, and we had some overpackers in our group. So unpacking was very helpful just to get the suitcases and everything out of the way. So we got settled into our room and then enjoyed the scenic views as we left Seattle and on the way north. Day 2 of the cruise was a sea day as well, as we, made some mileage getting up the coast to our first port. And the views from the ship are something that I was surprised about. I guess most people I know had been on Caribbean cruises, and I think the views are really just like vast ocean views. I would highly recommend splurging for a balcony room on this particular cruise because the views up the coast and down the coast are absolutely incredible. And we had views almost every day that we were on the cruise at a port, or even the sea days. Like, there were just spectacular views. So I highly recommend spending a little bit extra to get a room that has a balcony instead of one of the interior rooms. Also, on that very first sea day, it was the fancy night, so everyone got dressed up. That was the night that we decided to splurge, and we made a dinner reservation at one of the restaurants that was not included with the package that we purchased. So we did spend a little bit of extra on dinner that night, but it was a lot of fun. We all got dressed up. We went around like the main areas of the ship. We got our picture taken, and all of that goes to an app. So once the picture is taken, your group is connected. So everyone had access in our group to our group pictures, and you can purchase those. I think they were $25 per picture, so a little bit pricey, but you can pick kind of like 1 or 2 of your favorites and then have this really beautiful professional picture of your group for your cruise. So we had a really great time on fancy night with our dinner reservation. And then the third day was the first port day, and that port day stopped in Ketchikan. So Ketchikan is the salmon capital of the world. So when we arrived at Ketchikan, we disembarked the ship, and we had made prior bookings through the cruise line. The first excursion that we did was going to Totem Bight State Park. This is a state park where they go out into the wilderness and find old totem poles from the indigenous tribes in that area. They bring them back and they restore them. So our tour guide was telling us that it's a little bit controversial. I guess there are mixed feelings about it. There are like the historical view where they're wanting to preserve that history and that tradition and finding the totem poles and preserving them and restoring them. And then there's the indigenous view where that's not what they believe. So the indigenous tribes believed that the totem poles should be left where they were. And then if, a piece of it falls off, that piece should remain on the ground where it was until it decomposes and goes back to the earth. So there are differing views about it, which was interesting to learn about going into this state park and seeing all of the totems. It was a good excursion, I thought, just to be able to see and learn about the culture of the indigenous tribes in the area. But I felt a little controversial about it after knowing, the views of the indigenous people, and that, they weren't really supportive of what this park's mission was. The next stop that we did was a lumberjack show. This is super touristy, super kitschy. I mean, it's definitely very theatrical when you go to the lumberjack show, but it was a lot of fun. If that's not your thing, you might want to pass on it. Which brings me to day 4 of our cruise. So day 4 was probably my favorite experience for the entire cruise that we did. So the morning starts off bright and early. So starting around, I think it was around like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., the cruise ship enters Endicott Arm, which is a more narrow passage off of the inside passage, travels up the Endicott Arm, which there are just like absolutely amazing views the entire time on all sides of the ship because you're very close to the shore, much closer than we had been other days. The film doesn't do it justice. Our group set alarms. We got up really early. It was still pretty dark out. We went to the front of the ship. They set up chairs and they have blankets and they have coffee and hot chocolate because it is cold. It's dark, and this was the coldest day that we experienced just because we were up before the sun and we were sitting outside watching the scenery. So I highly recommend getting up early to be able to experience that. I mean, our group, we sat snuggled, bundled up in our coats and our hats and our sweaters and with blankets that the ship provided. We sat at the front of the ship and we were able to just experience this beauty of nature. It was honestly like once in a lifetime experience. I think just how scenic it was, the people we were there with, we met some other people that were sitting near us. So it was a lot of fun and just absolutely beautiful, like breathtakingly beautiful. If you are going to take an Alaskan cruise, I would highly recommend. I know it's early, some people aren't morning people. It's worth it. I recommend doing that and just, making the most of seeing that and experiencing it with the group you're with. So that ended, still pretty early. So we went back to our room and got ready and went to breakfast and all of those things on the ship. And then a few hours later, we stopped in Juneau. So the Juneau port was one of my favorite. It's definitely still touristy, but it's more of like a substantial town, I think, than some of the other places we stopped. And again, we did book some excursions on the ship prior to stopping at some of the ports, but Juneau was the only one where we actually purchased an additional excursion once we got on land. So there is a cable car that takes you to the top of this peak in Juneau. Beautiful views. We did some hiking while we were up there. There's some shops and there's a restaurant as well. So there's a lot to do for everyone. Like even if you're not into hiking, my mom and grandmother didn't hike around with my aunt and I, but there was something for everyone, and it wasn't very expensive to get the cable car ride to the top. So I do recommend doing that while you're there, and especially if the weather is nice, because the views from up there were gorgeous. I feel like I've said that in every single day that we've been on the cruise, but I mean the views, it is just a beautiful country in Alaska. It says watch out for bears. Mm-hmm. Says we should make noise along the way to keep them. Once we did our already pre-booked excursion, we came down on the cable car and we talked with some of the vendors who are set up for you to buy excursions. So we talked with a couple of the different ones for a whale watching trip. That was something that we had looked at before, but booking through the cruise ship, it was significantly more expensive. At the end, I'll give you some tips and tricks about like which ones to book through the cruise or before going through, their website, and then which ones you can probably wait to book. So this is just from our experience, and if I were to do it again, that's how I would do it. So if you stay tuned to the end, and I'll tell you more about that, but we did go whale watching. It was really cool. So there was whale activity. We saw more tails of the whales, not so much like whales jumping out of the water. When you're whale watching, the first thing you're looking for is the whale to surface, and they'll blow air out of their blowhole, which blows water, which you're seeing in some of the videos. And then the whale will continue to surface just its back a couple of times, and you'll continue to see the water spray. At the very end is when you see their tail. So the whale will come up one final time for air, and that's when you see their tail. So it's when they're about to dive deep is when their tail will flick up, and then they'll be gone and they'll be under the water for, 5 or more minutes, and, they could pop up in a totally different area. There's the tail! Woo! It was really cool to see the whales and just to learn about how to watch for them. After we went whale watching and we knew what we were looking for and how to really spot them, we actually saw some from the ship a few days later. So highly recommend the whale watching. It was a lot of fun. And that really wrapped up the day 4 of the cruise. So we, went back to the cruise. We had dinner, hung out on the ship, and did some fun things. But that was really kind of the highlight. And quite frankly, we were really tired at the end of the day. We had woken up at 4 o'clock to go in Endicott Arm. And then we had been on several different excursions throughout the day. So I think that was probably an early night for us. So day 5, we arrived in Skagway early in the morning. So this is the farthest north stop that this particular cruise path takes you. So Skagway is a old gold mining town. So it's a very historic town. If you have heard of, now I'm blanking on it. If you watch the Gold Rush show, I know some of them are in, oh my gosh, Yukon. Oh my gosh, the Yukon. So a lot of the Gold Rush that you see even today on shows, a lot of them are in the Yukon. So this is like before you would have gotten to the Yukon, which is further in to the terrain. This was a cool stop. The town itself has a lot of very touristy things, a lot of shops, there's breweries, there's, a bunch of restaurants. So we did do that. We explored the town a little bit, but we also had pre-booked an excursion, which is a train ride. Again, it's a round trip train ride. You basically just go up and back, but you gain a lot of elevation. I would recommend the trip on the train. I think they probably have a couple of different ones, but it was a really cool experience. Being able to just see a lot of the land is still very raw. It's like difficult to get to. Again, I say you gain a lot of elevation. It's very rocky. So, it is very rough terrain even now. So it's very rough and raw land. So very much like it would have been back, 100 years ago or more, definitely more, like 200 years ago when the gold rush was going on, and, men traveling on horse and buggy up this mountain to get to the Yukon to mine gold. So it was a really interesting history. I think, that's part of Alaska, like the final frontier. That's what it was all about. And you felt it on that train ride. It was really interesting. So highly recommend the train ride. There were absolutely, again, amazing views. I can't get over the views that we had in Alaska. So that would be my recommendation for the excursion to do on that Skagway stop. After the train ride, went back to the ship. This port in particular had beautiful views leaving port. I would highly recommend when you get back on the ship, after Skagway to remain outside, whether that's at your balcony or somewhere on the deck so that you can see the views as the ship pulls out of the port and then sets sail again. So I haven't vlogged a lot during this vacation just because I wanted to be in the moment with my family, but I'm sitting outside watching the sunset from our cruise ship and just feeling very grateful for being here, being able to spend this time with family, have this adventure, see the beauty that Alaska has to offer. So I don't know, I wanted to take a moment and just really be grateful and share that feeling with you all. And if you ever have the chance to come to Alaska, I highly recommend it. It's a magical experience, and you can find deals online. So I hope you're able to check it out one day, or if you have already, maybe leave in the comments your favorite town or activity, because I have a feeling I will be back. Thanks. Good night. Day 6 was a sea day, and again, there were spectacular views the entire time. I think this is actually the day that we ended up seeing whales from the ship. And then day 7, the last day on the cruise, was the stop in Victoria, Canada. This stop, the port time, and I don't know if the port times changes from cruise to cruise. I know it does for, the different ships, but like Discovery, Princess, Inside Passage, I don't know if they have the same port times every single time. You'd have to do some research. But this was not the best port time, in my opinion. One, it was much shorter, but it didn't get in until I think around like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. Like it was already getting pretty dark. A lot of the things that Victoria, Canada had to offer were like gardens and different things. The very last day was like the only day that we experienced rain on the entire cruise, which is kind of unheard of for Alaskan cruises this time of year. We ended up not getting off the ship for this particular one, and it was the end of our cruise experience. We were tired. My mom and I talked when we got back from the cruise, and we were really surprised. Before we went, we thought that the cruise was going to be like super relaxing. Yes, you're getting off at the ports and exploring, but there's many sea days, and we thought that it was just going to be less like really relaxing vacation. It wasn't as relaxing as we thought, and we were really surprised by that, and we were trying to put our finger on like why. One, I think that that we were busier and like exploring more than we thought that we were going to. And then two, I just feel like on the ship, there's a lot of stimulation. Like there's all of these activities going on. There's a lot of people. So I'm not sure. I can't really put my finger on exactly what it was, but it definitely was not as relaxing as we thought it was going to be. But with that said, it was an absolutely amazing experience, and I'm so glad that we went and were able to explore Alaska. I think that Alaska is beyond beautiful, and I would even be open to going back to Alaska and exploring more on the land. So either taking like a car or a train trip, something to get you more into Alaska, state parks, national parks, and explore further into Alaska than what we were able to go on this cruise. So now I wanted to kind of switch gears now that you've heard a little bit about our experience and the different stops. And now I really wanted to talk about some of the accommodations. So we'll start there. I had done some research before we went on our cruise, and there were a couple of things that I couldn't really find good information about the accommodations on the ship. So I wanted to share some of that with you. There are some really good videos out there that show the ship in much more detail than what I'm going to share with you. The accommodation that was specifically interested in was there's like a drop down bed. I'm not really sure what it's called, but it kind of like pops out of the ceiling. I couldn't find any like pictures or anything with that converted to a bed. Like it was always up in the videos that I saw. I will say, because we went at the end of the season where it's not prime Alaskan cruising season, we were able to get a really good deal. So if you think that maybe you can't afford an Alaskan cruise, look into the deals. September was still really good weather. We had better weather than normal, but even normal weather would have been very doable for this type of cruise. And the deal we found with Princess was it was literally buy one, get one free for your cruise accommodations, and that was for any level of cabin. I'm going to show you around our stateroom. So this is the view when you walk into the room. To this side, there is a closet where you can hang ample amounts of clothes. There is also a wardrobe for any folded clothes, as well as a safe that's very easy to use. And there's a bathroom, a little messy from our week at sea. So you'll see you have a toilet and a bathtub with shower, and then a fairly large, it's only a single sink, but fairly large vanity with plenty of storage on the shelves. There's 4 of us in this room and we have not had any issues. You also have this full-length mirror. And going into the bedroom. So we had our main bedroom area set up with 2 twin beds. This can also be set up as a queen on this side. And then on this side, you have a living room area. You can shut these curtains to close off and separate the rooms. You also have curtains by the window as well. So we have a couch, a little desk or vanity area with a mirror, and then a TV in the seating area as well as the bedroom area. So we ended up using this space as like a hair makeup vanity since there are 4 women traveling and we needed a little bit of extra space. And then our balcony. This is the best part of our room. We sat out here so much. It's a little hard to open, but it's absolutely beautiful. There's 2 chairs and we had scenic views the entire cruise. And that's a tour of our room. So the couch converts to a twin bed, and then there's a bed that actually kind of comes down from the ceiling to make like a bunk bed situation. I had a hard time finding videos of this online before our trip, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. So I can show you that in just a little while. We'll have our steward come in and set the beds up. So I'm gonna call him because we're about to go to dinner. And then while we're at dinner, he'll come and make the couch into a bed, and then also make the bed come down from the ceiling. So I'll show you that when we get back from dinner. All right, we are back from dinner and our steward came and the lights are dimmed. So it's just like a really nice atmosphere when you walk in. The beds are made, it's been cleaned up a little bit, and the couch has been turned into a bed, as well as the drop down bed from the ceiling. I hope that helped you make a decision if you're planning an Alaskan adventure, what type of cabin you would have, if you maybe need more than one, or if you can do like we did and really get that discount and all stay in one cabin. Now that you've seen the cabin, the next thing I really wanted to talk about are some tips and tricks that we learned on our trip. So one is booking excursions beforehand. I think there are times and types of excursions that you should book, whether you book them through the cruise ship, which I will say is a little pricier. I think if you have one that you want to do and you can go to like that company's website. For example, the one that kind of came to my mind was the cable car that we did in Juneau. We purchased ours before going, from the cruise ship prior to going on the cruise. I think that you could just walk up and buy a ticket and it'd be cheaper. Like, that's not something that's going to run out. That cable car is going back and forth all day. The line wasn't very long when we were there. So, that one, like, I think that you could probably just book that when you get to Juneau and just walk. It's like right there when you get off the train, like you'll see it coming into port. So that one I think that you would be fine doing on your own and it would be cheaper. The one that I would recommend booking before is the train in Skagway. Again, you heard how much I enjoyed this excursion. And there were people that I heard on the cruise who said that they wanted to do that and they waited until they got to port to purchase tickets. But because it is a train, I mean, there are a limited number of seats. There's only so many up and down trips during your duration to port. And it was a longer trip. I mean, we were on the train for several hours. So that one I would highly recommend booking beforehand because I did hear people say that they were not able to get tickets because it was all booked up. The one that you should wait on, and this I feel like is the biggest one, whale watching. The reason we didn't book it through the ship, even though it was something that we really wanted to do, is because it was so expensive. It was like around $350 per person to go on a whale watching excursion through Princess. This is the tip. When you get to port, there are going to be a bunch of vendors. So we went in Juneau. There were a bunch of vendors lined up offering the exact same experiences. So you have to take a shuttle to where their smaller boat goes out for the whale watching. So if it's getting to like, an hour before their shuttle is departing for that, if they have leftover tickets, they're going to deeply discount them. So we were able to purchase our whale watching excursion for $100 per person. So $250+ savings from booking it with the cruise ship to waiting and booking it on the shore. If you have a huge party or something, you might want to go through a company and try to get a special deal before getting there. The other thing I wanted to mention, Princess offers a spa package. This package was really just access to this spa area that included this bigger like hot tub area. They had saunas and spa steam rooms. So a lot of different types of things you could do in the spa area, but we didn't utilize it as much as we thought we would. We used it mostly when on the sea days, and we would go and spend an hour, a couple of hours. But again, that wasn't very many. We had really good port times on this particular cruise. So I mean, we would usually get to the port in the morning and then leave in the evening. So we had all day at port to explore. We could have used it probably like some of the mornings before we went out, but we didn't. So unless you really know that you're going to utilize that a lot, I would say probably pay day by day. It would have been cheaper for us. That my grandmother, she uses a wheelchair sometimes. Like if there's going to be a lot of walking, then we have a wheelchair, and we took our own, it's just a regular wheelchair that someone has to push. But once we arrived at the port, they had one vendor that's not associated with Princess. I'm sure they have some sort of tie, but separate vendor who was renting electric scooters and electric wheelchairs. There were a couple of different options there. So once we saw that, we started talking with them and understanding prices, and we thought that that would be a really good option for my grandmother, who would sometimes need to be in a wheelchair. If you're traveling with someone who has limited mobility, I highly recommend renting one of those scooters or electric wheelchairs. It was one of the best decisions that we made, and it made it a lot easier getting around at the ports. We did not have a handicap room, and the scooter was still able to get in. It was a tight fit.
You got it. You got it. Slow. Whatever, not best, no best entrances.
Ooh, that was a professional parking job,
Oh, yeah.
Gee.
Woohoo!
Get good.
Girl got it.
Plan ahead, book the handicap room if you have someone who is going to be renting one of those scooters. I think it would just be much more comfortable. So I just wanted to preface that to just right off the bat, you'll see the scooter in some of the videos, and everything was very well accessible. we ate at the buffet most days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the buffets were huge. They had something for everyone, a bunch of different hot and cold options for all three meals, and different areas for different types of cuisine from around the world, as well as areas for specific dietary restrictions that people have. So I really enjoyed the food on the cruise. I thought it was really good for like an all-inclusive type situation. And that was our cruise. I hope these tips were helpful for you. If you're going to Alaska, I hope you have an amazing time. I hope the weather is as good as we had on our cruise. But either way, it's about the journey and about the people that you're spending it with. So I hope you have a great time. I certainly did on my Alaskan cruise, and I don't think it'll be the last time that I go to Alaska. Stay tuned. We will be back in a couple of weeks with a video that we are doing on our project house. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.